Heroes of the Horn, a Wheel of Time podcast. I am Sir Matt.
And I am Sir Ezra. Welcome to our Wheel of Time book club. The horn has sounded and we have answered the call. Today we are covering the Dragon Reborn Prologue.
Yeah, man. Book 3. Wow, crazy to think we're already 2 books in, but that does not necessarily put us that far into the overall story. So,
yeah,
it's pretty crazy though to know. Hey, I think now you and I may have some idea of how season 1 of the show goes, as we just finished. And I think the end of the Great Hunt is the perfect place to end season 1.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's. I know I've seen theories out there that it could be some, and I think you brought it up too. One of your friends was talking about like maybe this could go, season 1 could stretch into the Dragon Reborn, and I, who knows? But I just think there's so much you can do with the ending of the Great Hunt that I'm like, I think it's good. I think it's a good spot to end season 1. So,
yeah, I'm with you too. I mean, I think the sounding of the horn, everybody coming back, the banner being flown, everything I think is the perfect place.
Yeah, for sure. So I don't know. That's been fun. We've been kind of covering that over on YouTube, just looking at the show, how we're going to break it down. I think did we do the final episode? I think we've gotten through 7, right? But we have
to do the final episode.
Just the final episode. Yeah, because I got a good chance to talk about my friend Ingtar. And we actually had a couple friends on who we kind of did I did like an Eye of the World review with Sarah O'Malley from Swish and Flick, and Matt and I sat down with Nicole Whitaker, Nicole Sadai of the White Aja, one of our patrons and a longtime friend of the podcast. We get to talk about the Great Hunt, which was awesome. So that stuff again is up on YouTube, and we've been having a lot of fun just talking about whether you should get into the series, what those first 2 books mean. Yeah, exactly. Yes. What those first 2 books mean for us, and then also kind of, how do we think they're going to adapt those to TV? So it's just a lot. And I'm telling you, what do you think? I mean, when's that trailer coming out?
Man, I don't know. I mean, the crazy thing is, we talked about this in some of our YouTube videos, is that we're now getting cast. There was some minor cast announced, right? Characters that we know will only be in episode 1. So with that, right, and then they announced some more characters, and some stuff that Ez is like, that's new spring stuff. So, okay, yeah. Cool. All right. So that's kind of good to know. So, as we find out more and more of the cast, I mean, I expect the next wave of minor characters. Well, actually, there were some in this next wave. It was God, what's his name? Who's going to be playing whatever the farmer is? The name where the Rand and Matt kind of stay there, right? When they're when they're traveling before they meet up. Okay, well that's obviously episode 2 or 3. So I think we're getting a lot closer. Is all I can really say. I mean, if that means that the next wave of characters they'll announce will be like episode 4 or 5. I mean, so we'll go from there. I mean, I think here in like 2 weeks, might you get a cast? This guy's been cast as Ingtar.
I mean, that would blow my mind if they did that. I would literally, that'd just be amazing. It'd be amazing because we were talking about how maybe, again, it's one of our YouTube videos where we're talking about maybe how Ingtar's story could start earlier. He could be someone that they meet, a Shanaran who is south and who is trying to maybe gather support, or who is at the court of Caemlyn trying to say, we need aid at Tarwin's Gap. We need help up there in this fight. And that might be a way to weave him into this group earlier so we can get this awesome sort of like, we get attached to him. We love him just the way we do the way I do in The Great Hunt. And then you have this epic moment for him at the end. But some people I think are probably like, Ez, this is a little much. I mean, your obsession with Ingtar is what? People are probably asking, do I secretly have some dark side that I'm like trying to seek redemption, and find my way back to the light? Maybe, okay? Aren't we all? I mean, isn't that the thing?
Yes. We absolutely are. So it's cool. So we'll see. That we're getting more and more news of it. It seems like obviously production is coming back. They were probably almost done with it. That's what it seemed like. They seemed like they were done up through episode 6. So we'll definitely see. Stay tuned as we get more and more of this info, man. So yeah, I'm sure they'll release something. I mean, I didn't know that there's been any sort of promotional images, right? I mean, like here's just like boom, coming 2021 or something. So, but I mean, I think we're getting some more news, and any news is good news.
Yeah, 100%. So I'm looking for. I ask you that question, and I think for me, the answer of when is soon. I mean, obviously, I would say this fall. Like we're gonna get some sort of thing. I think didn't we see somewhere that they were gonna go back to filming? That they might have had to push those last 2 episodes back to like November or something, or October.
I haven't heard that. Maybe well with the weather, I don't know. Yeah,
I think so. I think I saw this might have been on Narg, the Daily Trolloc. I think is tracking sort of like what other projects are kind of opening up, looking at the countries and looking at those agencies where extras are needed, and they need extras in those last 2 episodes, and it seemed like they were hinting that it was going to be in the fall. So I don't know. I kind of thought they were already back, as like it would be this summer type of thing, but maybe not. So either way, I think there's still enough there to cut up a teaser trailer. Even that's all I need is a teaser. You don't have to give me a full blown. trailer.
Yes, 100%. There should be enough to give us. I mean, if you have 6 episodes done, we don't need to see the end of the season to be hyped for it. I mean, there's definitely got to be some battles or something that's done that you can totally tease up.
Yeah, for sure. So but you know what, hey, before we go any further though, I do want to check in with you because folks always want to know how Sir Matt is doing. You've been traveling, right? You've been on vacation recently. How's that been?
Yes, it was good. I went to Vegas. Just have basically family down there. My girlfriend's family's down there, and so we went down there. We didn't go out and to casinos or anything, so it's just like a suburb. It's called Henderson, but it was cool. It was nice. Weather was warm. Pool's great. Like 90 degree. It was like 110 or 105 or something. But it's Vegas, so it's a dry heat, and then it was like 90 degree pool weather. So it was like pool's 90, warm, great.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, man, it's actually here in Ohio. This whole week is supposed to be just sunshine and everything. I was talking to my sister. We have a little pool. You know those pools that you kind of put up? I don't know. They're the circle pools. They're kind of cheap.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The above ground pools, yeah.
Yeah, it's like 4.
They're great.
Yeah, it's like 4.5 feet or whatever.
Yeah.
So I was like, this is great, but I mean, I can't keep getting in and out of this to check my phone. I got to check Twitter. I need like a little ledge. I need my White Claw sitting there on the side. So we rigged up, and we're in the middle of it. We started it last night. We're rigging up this little platform, around it where we can just swim to one side, set our stuff down. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 100%.
Am I the only one who's out there trying to do?
You're right there with you. Yeah, trust me. I had to have mine, under a chair because it gets too hot, right? Because like when I was in Vegas, it's like 110 or something, and so the ground is hot.
Yes.
And so one day I set my phone down there, and then I came back and it was like off, and it was like your phone turned off because it was overheating. And so I was like, oh, okay. So you put it on the ground, but you put a towel over or something. But yeah, you can kind of swim over to it and check it. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So anyways, so those are the updates with us. I also wanted to talk about, I guess, as we're getting into the 3rd book here, some updates that we've done on our Patreon page. So we've said this on other projects. We are really going to be putting a lot more stuff up there and putting a lot more into that. We're recording the video version of the podcast, and we're going to post that there for folks to go watch if you want, if you're interested in that and see all the craziness. I mean, I have my book here, and I think at the start of this, I kind of held up like my version of the Dragon Reborn, which is, by the way, sick. This is one of those larger paperbacks. So you see how big, I mean, like if you get a chance to go check this out, you can see how big this is. And you can't find these, Sir Matt. I have gone and tried to find, I think the first 3, Eye of the World and the Great Hunt and the Dragon Reborn. I think they did this style, this classic, cover or artwork. But to have them, they're normally a lot smaller and they're thicker. But this is sort of like a taller, version. And it's good for taking notes, and it's just a better, version. But anyways, so that's the kind of cool stuff you can see over there. And we've also updated Patreon rewards to include YouTube stuff as well. So we're putting your name at the end of the YouTube videos, and we're going to have, those of you who are at the Heroes of the Horn tier will be sponsoring those videos as well too. So it's really cool. Helps the podcast, and I think it's going to, again, just wait for that teaser trailer to drop, and we will have a lot of friends in here wanting to know more about this series, because I guarantee it's going to look amazing, and people are going to be like, this is awesome. Where was it, Sir Matt, where we were talking, I think it was on Bend the Knee, when we were talking about the origins to every great story. If you're trying to pitch a story and you're trying to get people, or no, it was Hyperspace. Yeah. Right, and we talked about
it was Hyperspace, and we were talking about it was years ago. I was talking to Ez about a video game that was coming out. It's called Secret of Mana, which is an older game, but they remade it a couple years ago. And I remember Ez was asking me about this game I was playing, and he's like, what is this? I'm like, oh, it's called Secret of Mana. He's like, well, what's it about? I'm like, well, a young kid finds a magical sword, and we were just like, he's like, I'm in, like, I'm in, dude. Like that's like every fantasy story is like,
Right. I think I literally said, say no more, I'm down. I was like, and you just started laughing. I was just like, no, seriously, a boy finds a magical sword, let's go.
Yeah.
And it made me think, I was just sort of like, that's sort of like, I mean, King Arthur's story, Rand has one, Luke Skywalker gets,
Frodo,
his lightsaber.
Bilbo finds one. Frodo gets it. I mean, yeah.
Exactly. So I was thinking about the Heron Mark blade. I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is like. So when you go to pitch the Wheel of Time to somebody, and I've done this with other friends, and this has happened to Sir Matt for years, when somebody just pitches the series to you, it's pretty much, it's an easy pitch. You're sort of like, wow, I'm down, I'm in, I want to read about that story. What daunts people is it being so long, 14 novels and so on. Like, that commitment is so big. When you go to, I think when they see a teaser trailer, they're going to be like, I'm in. Let's go search this. Let's go figure this out. So I'm just waiting for that to happen, because I want people. It's the same thing that happened to me with Game of Thrones. When I was first introduced to Wheel of Time and Game of Thrones, it was around the same time. I started with Wheel of Time, and then Game of Thrones was coming up, and I said, I got to read the first book before the show comes out, because I want to be that person. I just wanted to get that in. And there will be people who didn't see the teaser trailer, and it ends up coming out on Amazon or whatever, and they're like, let's dive back into the series. So regardless of how you get into it, I think it's an amazing story, and I'm a reader. I'm into literature. I'm a book nerd, and the more people who get into this, I think it's great. I'm a reading teacher, and I love promoting literacy, so this is great, and a way that you can help kind of support this project is by going to Patreon, checking out those new rewards. It's going to be a blast.
Absolutely.
All right. Whew, there we go. So now we're going to get right into this. So this being the prologue, we're just covering the prologue today, and we're going to come back, later with our chapters 1 through 10 of the Dragon Reborn. There's a lot. We actually recently did an extended edition where we covered sort of a recap on the White Cloaks. We went over Dane Bornhold, Jeffrem Bornhold. We talked about Child Bayar. And this is over on Patreon. We put this up there for folks, just as kind of a recap, as to what happened in the first 2 books with these individuals. So I guess initial thoughts as we get into the Dragon Reborn here. People always love to hear from Matt. Like, what were your thoughts just on the Fortress of Light? By the way, it's the prologue, but it's the Fortress of Light.
Yeah, man. Well, let me tell you. The prologues themselves, I think, now that this is the third prologue I read, man, they're like Dark Friend heavy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're I think it's kind of cool that they're very dark kind of favorite. I mean, the first one in the Eye of the World, right, is Lews Therin and Ba'alzamon, and they're going back and forth, and so like, okay, that's cool, like that's crazy, but it's kind of mysterious, and you're just starting, so you're not really understanding what's going on. The second one is like, all right, now that we know these characters, Rand and Matt and everybody, and we're getting back into everything. Who's the man called Bors? Still don't know. And they're having that the social, as likes to call it, the Dark Friend social, and it's like, okay, now we're hearing orders and stuff like that. So it kind of sets up this danger, right, that we're wondering what's going to happen throughout the book. And same thing happens here, right? They're don't kill Rand. Well, then a Murdral shows up and says, "Too bad, we are going to kill him." So I mean, it's
yes,
yeah.
That's the gist of it. I mean, that's the craziness. It's like when your character gets in a spot where you've been commanded to do this one thing by your Lord Commander, Captain Commander, and then you're also being told by a Murdral to do the exact opposite. And if you don't, in each situation, you're either going to lose your life or lose those around you. I mean, that's just freaking nuts. And you start to feel I don't know. It's like, what does this guy do? What would you do? You start to think about, well, what am I going to do here? And it's really hard. So we're talking about, because that's a great kind of summary as to really what happens in this. We start off, the point of view is Pedron Nile, and he is the Lord Captain Commander of the White Cloaks. He's a big deal. I mean, he is a big deal. You got that, right? The impression in
yes.
the beginning. I mean, as he's walking around here in his chambers and stuff, his private audience chamber, he's got. They talk about like his chair, he has it's I don't know, it's this simple chair, right? But then there's also gold floors, the sunburst, right? The sun is there, the light. They're children of the light. So I think that's kind of interesting, just because, I mean, why he doesn't seem to be into those gaudy things. Yet
extravagant things.
Yeah, because we're trying to learn who this guy is, right? What is, as far as we know. I mean, actually, I'll ask Sir Matt, right? The White Cloaks up to this point. What are your thoughts? Good guys, bad guys? What's going on?
Well, we have. Oddly enough, really, I feel like they're still kind of this mysterious kind of thing, right? Just up to where we are now. I mean, we've run into them a couple times, and you're kind of everyone, wary of them, and then to me, we talked about this, right? I described them as chaotic good. Is kind of the way where they're in our Patreon episode, I think I used the term of think back to Batman Begins. Right, or if you're more kind of familiar with Ra's al Ghul and the League of Shadows, right? Well, they're good guys. I mean, their intent is we're going to root out evil, but their execution of those of that intent is no, we're going to destroy evil. In which case, we're going to destroy Gotham, burn it to the ground and start completely over. And so it's kind of that thing, right, where sometimes you see this with ultra religious zealots, right, where it's well, I mean, you have to really root out sin or evil, and so it's so there's not really any room for redemption, kind of a thing, right? You do, I mean, whereas it's kind of a difference. I mean, think about if they had found out that Ingtar, had they run into say Ingtar last book, well, they would have killed him on the spot, right? Hey, nope, we know you're a dark friend, right? Boom. Whereas Rand says, no, I think you can go back to the light.
That's right. All you have to do is want to, right? I mean, that's the thing. So, and that's why I bring up, you have to look closely at the White Cloaks, and you have to look at Jeffrey Bornhold is someone who I think, although he was, once he in his mind established that you were a dark friend, you were dead. I mean, he was lethal as any of them. But he was not quick to jump to. He was not what's the word that they use? Overzealous or whatever.
Yeah, zealous. Yeah,
and he wouldn't. He actually cautioned other men about that. Not all of these different people are dark friends. And actually, what happens in the beginning of this is Pedron Nile is talking to Jacob Carradine, and he says, because Jeffrey Bornhold decides to attack the invaders, the Shanchen, and he takes his forces from Almouth Plain and he moves over into Tolman Head a little bit, right? Because he disobeyed orders to some degree. Jacob Carradine, one of the questioners, kind of calls him a dark friend. And Pedron Nile flips this on him. He at first, the reports coming back are that Jeffrey Bornhold has disobeyed orders. And if you disobey an order, then clearly this was a direct order and how dare you disobey it? Well, he's a field commander. He is a he's a Lord Captain. It's not, the Lord Captain Commander is Pedro Nile, but he is a Lord Captain out on the field with a legion. And he decides that this is a fight for the light that he is going to engage in. He is a child of the light, and he is going to fight for the light because what he saw, what he labeled the Shan-Chen and these individuals as were dark friend invaders. So Pedro Nile turns it on him and basically says, why didn't you, Jacob Gai'don, why didn't you go fight with him? You see? So he was the one who actually, because at one point, he says to him, like, do you still think he's actually a dark friend? Do you think Jeffrem Bornhold is a dark friend? Come on. One of the highest among us. And he kind of says, well, we'll never know, right? We weren't able to put him to the question because he died. And it's like Pedro Nile is kind of saying to him, but we can put you to the question because you're still alive. And why didn't you go back him? If those were truly dark friends, why did you stay out of the fighting? And it's very complex. And it's just like, you've got to be careful with every single thing that you say. And I don't know, like that's one of those things that there's a complexity to the White Cloaks that I think it's hard to understand on an initial read. I will just say that I didn't get it. I wasn't even keeping track of those characters very well because when they show up, it feels like we've been away from them for so long that I was like, who is this again? And what did he do? It is a hard,
Well, with that kind of, religious zealotry, right? I guess is kind of the easiest way to kind of describe it. Or with that kind of like when you're what's not motivation, but when you're I guess your expectations are set so high, right? That like, anything, if you're not with us, you're against us, then failure becomes like, the smallest thing, which would just be, is what it is, becomes like an egregious error, right? I mean, I kind of think about it like Star Wars, for example, right? Like Darth Vader, and especially like Emperor Palpatine, where it's like, you failed me for the last time, and they just kill him, right?
Yes.
Kind of is totally their kind of way of doing things.
Yeah. Yeah. No. 100%. And it's like, by the way, too, once you're turned over to this other faction of the questioners, and that's not the actual, like, there's another term for them, but like, I refer to them as the questioners because they're the ones who they are trying to gain the truth from you. Once you're handed over to them, there's really no going back. You're gonna die.
Yeah,
you're either gonna die and have a chance, like, by giving them the truth, you could maybe redeem yourself and come back to the light or whatever. It's so scary that one of them, Jacob Gai'don, he does not want to be named a dark friend. Like, if the Lord Commander Captain names you, like you said, the Darth Vader reference, names you a dark friend, you're done. You're done. You're going to we're going to get the truth out of you. You're going to be questioned by your own, faction, but you're not going to make it. And he knows that. He knows it's sort of like through Jacob Gai'don, you can kind of see, okay, there's an issue with this subgroup inside of the White Cloaks. I feel like, up to this point.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's sort of the big, the scary thing. Now, and actually, I guess we should back up just a little bit because I'll talk more about him in a second here. But Child Bayar is someone who we should keep an eye on. He's been around for a little bit in the first two books. Child Bayar, remember, was the one who was coming from the war over on Toman Head. And Jeffrem Bornhold was sending Child Bayar back to make a report. He said two things. He wanted him to tell the Lord Captain Commander Pedro Nile what had happened. Tell him what is going to happen here, because Jeffrem saw that he was riding to his death, potentially. He knew that there was potential for that. And then he also wanted his son, Dane Bornhold, to know what had happened to his father. And he had always cautioned his son to not be one of those overzealous people. So anyways, Child Bayar shows up here, and he is the one who Pedro Nile is questioning. He's in his chamber here, and he's asking him, who did this? Are you sure it was Aes Sedai? Is this truly a false dragon? Or is this, the dragon. We have another one of these. And by the way, that's a thing. You know, when we start the series off, it's rare to have. It seems like it would be years before someone would proclaim themselves to be like the dragon. That didn't happen very often. And now, I mean, Sir Matt, it's like left and right, dude. It's just like one after the other. We've got, you know, people showing up, or people proclaiming to be the dragon.
Yeah,
it's wild. So,
well, yeah. I mean, probably for a lot of reasons. One, I mean, once other people start proclaiming, it's like, well, you have other people who think, no, I think I'm the actual dragon, right? So there's definitely that.
Yeah, for sure. So, you know, he's kind of questioning him about this, and it's very important that Pedron Nile understand this element of the Aes Sedai, right? Do you remember in Book 2 when Egwene, when they're going back with? Well, hold on a second. When was that? No, that's going to be coming up, I think. So
okay, hasn't happened yet.
Gotta catch myself there. But they're you've kind of seen like the White Cloaks who were in Caemlyn. They seem to be anti Aes Sedai. Can we that is at least known?
Yeah,
given,
absolutely.
Right?
We know they are. Yeah.
So it's very important that we understand who was using the power over there. Was it this false dragon? Because that's the other question: is can he actually channel? And you know, that's where later on Jacob Cardin will say it doesn't matter. Even the Aes Sedai, you know, they'll die just as quickly with an arrow, or you know, a dagger in the dark. So he's saying I can kill some of these Aes Sedai for us, and even the dragon Reborn, regardless of whether he can channel or not, like Jacob Cardin is saying, I'm going to make it my goal to kill that guy, and so that's one of the conversations that happens here. But Bayar is important in telling. In telling the Lord Commander what happened, you know, like whether these attackers were Aes Sedai. And I think the thing that's interesting too is like because we the reader know we know that these were Damani, that these were Shanchen who you know were invaders and stuff like that. That's really who they were facing, but it all gets kind of muddled and some of the truth gets lost in this telling, and it's way far away, and you're just getting reports back, and it's like there's they're saying at one point that the Aes Sedai are backing this dragon. That hasn't happened before. That's never been even like a whisper on the wind.
Yeah, no, and I was thinking about that too. You know, it's like when we hear in the beginning the Eye of the World, right, that about Logain, they're talking about Logain, right? The false dragon. Well, everyone probably believes that anybody who proclaims to be the dragon is a false dragon, right? I mean, so that's what they see, and so that's why this time, because the Aes Sedai did not go back Logain, they went and shut Logain down.
That's right. That's right.
And so now that they're going and backing the Aes Sedai, it's like or backing Rand. It's like, well, okay, maybe it's time to see, you know, what it is that's going on here.
Yeah, exactly. And in this prologue, you start to hear from Pedron Nile, who believes that this may be, that the last battle may be coming. He is one who seems to start to kind of believe, yeah, I think this is happening. And I bring that up because earlier we talked about the golden floor and where he's walking around. I'm going to read a little bit of this where it says when this is again credit to Jordan and his writing. Pedron Nile and his room and his surroundings and what he pays attention to and what he values, right? So for 10 years, Nile had walked across that gold, and we're talking about the floor, the sunbursts and things, and never thought of it twice, any more than he had thought of the sunburst embroidered across his chest on his white tunic. Gold held little interest to Pedron Nile. So what is he interested in? You find out that he is a commander, man. I mean, he is all about like this fight and glory. I mean, essentially, well, I guess you could kind of say glory, right? He wants to be like, if he sees the last battle is coming, and I think he's even picking up on maybe, and I think you could probably guess this, that if the Aes Sedai are back in this dragon, this could be it. Like that's a rare thing that's happening. So we've got to be ready for this, and we've got to play our role. All these other patrollings and things that they've been doing, like it's all setting up for this last battle in encounter. That's what the children are there for, right? They're there to fight for the light at the end of all of this. You either fight for the light or you fight for the dark, and they are the children of the light.
Yeah. I mean, it's just unfortunate to think that you have, well, and kind of cool too. And this is one of the things I'm liking about this series is that it's not just light versus dark, right? Like you have these different factions inside of the light and the dark, right? That kind of have like their own objectives or goals or purpose, right? And that's kind of interesting as well too, because it's like, well, the Aes Sedai and the White Cloaks both fight for the light, but they don't fight for the light. They don't have the same mindset about it.
Yes, and actually, so it's known that the Aes Sedai have these oaths, right? They swear on the oath rod, and essentially they're bound to these certain rules, and so it's very important when Bayar is telling the story to the Lord Captain Commander that he understand, were these actually Aes Sedai? Because right here it says they are that they have their 3 oaths: to speak no word that was not true, to make no weapon for no man, to kill another, to use the one power as a weapon only against dark friends or shadow spawn. So if they did in fact use the one power against the children of the light are not dark friends,
right?
As a whole, as a faction. So that's disturbing to him, and he's thinking, like, I got you. Essentially, I got you there. You broke one of your oaths, and that is like even if you didn't actually do it, the story is spreading that the Aes Sedai backed this dragon and they took on the children of the light. So that's problematic,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, okay. Yeah. So that's basically that. Let's move on here to Jacob Carradine. Actually, yeah. So we talked about Bayar. We talked about him a little bit. Oh yeah. By the way, I keep forgetting. So I say questioner, inquisitor, etc. Right after. So Pedro Nile like entertains Child Bayar. He entertains Jacob Carradine, and then there's this character named Ordith.
Yeah, I gotta say, Ordith, right? Okay, I gotta say, when I was listening to the audiobook, because I was listening to it and I was like doing something. Hold on a second, did he just say Mordith? And I thought he said Mordith.
Yeah.
And so I was like really confused, and I was like, hold on a second, wait, is like Mordith like running around doing stuff? And so like I kept going back and listening to it, and I was like, what? And I was like really blown away. And they're like, no, it's a character named Ordith. And I was like, oh, Jesus Christ, here we go. Like, I mean,
here we go. Yeah, exactly.
Because that's my big issue with Lord of the Rings is like all the characters have the exact same name, and it's like it gets a little confusing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's yeah.
Eowyn and Aramir, and it's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Eowyn, it's like, yeah.
Oh yeah, I know. And so like, yeah, what's going on with this character who shows up, right? Who emerges from this passage in the wall and was maybe secretly listening and stuff. So it's weird, because I think if a White Cloak caught someone listening at the door or doing something sneaky like that, what would they think? They would think you're a dark friend, right? Mm-hmm. That just seems like a sly thing to be doing. It doesn't seem to be something that an individual who is living their life in the light would be doing, which is nuts. That's just how crazy that is. You can have kids do that. I used to, you're listening into, parents having a private conversation. What's going on? They're planning some secret birthday party. Am I really a dark friend because I found out about it? No. But like there's that. So it's just odd, right? That he sort of is entertaining this individual who was sneaking around there. And also, I should mention, I forgot to mention this part, very important to the Jacob Carradine conversation is that he commands him, let's see here, he commands him to not kill the false dragon.
Yeah.
Right? Did that shock you? I mean, like that's What are you thinking now? When the Lord commanded, so everyone would think we should go kill that guy, right? We should take him out. And Jacob Cai'don says, give me until the summer and it will be done. It's like winter now. And I got it. And he's like, don't you dare. Right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that was interesting, right? But I guess maybe it's like, well, I mean, this dragon, like compare Rand just obviously right now. I mean, I'm not further enough on, but compare Rand to Logain. Well, Logain seems to be like most of the other false dragons that we've heard about, right? In that, well, we just want to go take him out and silence or gentle him. But Rand is different because the Aes Sedai are backing him. I mean, he just sounded the horn. Like people are talking about, at the last chapter in the Great Hunt, they're talking about all the stories that are now starting to spread about Rand al'Thor. He has the banner, right? I mean, the Heroes of the Horn came back, right? There was a battle, and if the Aes Sedai are backing him, it seems like he essentially you could capture him. You could use him as a chip against the Aes Sedai. You may need to see what's going on. Like, is he the real deal? Is he not? I think there's a lot of reasoning for them to not just try and even go kill him.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, that's again. So I'm going to read this. I just found it where Pedro Nile is thinking the exact same thing. Right? He's thinking that the pattern chilled the marrow in his bones. Chaos multiplied. What was unheard of, happening again and again. The whole world seemed to be milling, stirring near the boil. And it was clear to him the last battle was really coming. And just before that, as I said, he's talking about Mazrim Taim, who a faction of Aes Sedai had went down to confront, who was referenced actually in the last book. They seem to be going to confront that individual, but not confronting this guy, Rand al'Thor. And so he's trying to put those pieces together and saying, there is something emerging here, and I need to see it. He's this, tactician. Yeah. So yeah, there's that. He's also thinking that he's getting really old. So that's the other thing. Pedro Nile is an old guy. He's been around. He's a great seasoned battle commander. He is someone who is really important. All right, so yes, that was the conversation between Cai'don. Just wanted to kind of back up there because he's like, you don't kill him, don't touch the false dragon. And then Ordeith comes in and says, he tells him that this is Rand al'Thor, right, a dark friend from the Two Rivers, and talks about his other friends. They look at this drawing, right? There's this drawing that's been going around of Rand al'Thor, battling in the skies over Falma, and it's something that's circulating like crazy. So I thought that was interesting. But yeah, he tells him about his two friends, Matt and Perrin, to be on guard for them. And then Pedro Nile is wondering, should I make plans, for the Two Rivers? Should we do something with that region? So.
Yeah, is it time to go in there?
Yeah. Yes.
Which is crazy because they're totally undefended. I mean, they're totally undefended. But you and I were just looking at a map. It's not really the easiest place to get to be entirely honest. I mean, you really only got like one kind of entry point in there.
Yeah, exactly. And if you kind of rallied people in Devon Rye and those surrounding sort of regions or whatever, you could defend that region. Not easily, but I mean, if you had the resources and if you had a similar, there's natural barriers, right? And that sort of the thing is you can funnel people into a certain way and maybe protect yourselves a little bit. But yeah, that's to have them on the radar, I think is, for us, the reader, oh, shoot,
Right, because when you remember when you meet the, where Rand first runs into Logain, right, and put on Fane's there, right? Caemlyn, yeah. Remember when they're in Caemlyn, and they're talking about how when they talk about the Two Rivers and how, like, they forget that the Two Rivers is part of the, like exists.
Right, exactly, 100%, yeah. So. That's it just makes us kind of like we've always. I think. Have you been wondering if we're going to go back to the Two Rivers? I mean, are you wondering that as you read this?
Yeah. I have thought. Are we ever going to go back?
Yeah. So to me, I think that's probably when you hear reference that you're like, oh shoot, okay, we could be going, back there, and we don't want the White Cloak. We don't like the White Cloaks right now. the vibe around them is not good. So
Right.
there's that. And the last part of this is really we follow then Jacob Carradine. So we follow him as he goes down the halls of the fortress, and he's contemplating what he has heard. The Lord Commander, Lord Captain Commander, Pedron Nile, has basically said, if you don't obey, I will name you a dark friend, hand you over to your own questioners, end of story. And even Pedron Nile, when he's saying that, he thinks what I'm saying is treason. And he knows it, and so does Jacob Carradine. They both know that what the tippy-top guy said was treasonous, but if he says anything, he's a dead man. If he doesn't, he has to obey. And ironically, as he's walking through the Fortress of Light, he comes across, as you said in the open, a Myrddraal who is waiting for him. This is just scary, dude.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. To think that you walk into a room. I mean, it's like my worst nightmare come true.
Yeah. No, yeah, exactly. Because I mean, these guys are all about fighting all of the Dark One. And then here's a Myrddraal, right? Yeah. And then the Fade ends up confronting him. You know, the fact that he has orders from the great Lord of the Dark to find and kill Rand al'Thor.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, I know. And he is scared to death, and now he's really in a pickle where if he doesn't, they're going to kill his family members. Right? They're going to make him suffer. Yeah. So that's nuts. And then really what we get at the end of this is he has a little interaction with one of his servants. They talk about, well, he doesn't really talk about what to do. He gets some pen and paper and decides to write something. We don't necessarily know exactly what his what his plans are going forward. But
yeah, I will say I do like these kind of mysterious. That all of the so far, this being the third prologue, that they're all kind of mysterious, right? They're open ended. And so it just kind of leaves you with a mystery that you will kind of carry throughout the book.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, you kind of have to pay attention to you drift so far away from the White Cloaks. That's why we did that recap on Patreon, is just because I wanted to, refresh my memory on it, even being air quote a veteran reader, someone who's read it before. I was sort of like, oh man. And I remember when I first read it, it wasn't until much later that I was like books in, when I was like, oh, okay, I'm connecting like last names, and I'm starting to understand who is who, and the hierarchy and the structure of the Children of the Light, because you just don't really get that. On an initial read, it's hard to pay attention to the titles and who's the Lord Captain Commander versus who is a Lord Captain versus who's just one of the children, and so on. So I think it's important to kind of I think Robert Jordan knew he had a plan he has a plan with this faction. They've been a big deal in the first two books, and he's been thinking about them for a long time. Like when you introduce something in the first book, there's a reason. That's why I always think the first book to a large series is really important, because the author thought about those factions and those people and those individuals a lot. And so when there are references to them, that's why like Logain being referenced to me was always a big deal. I always loved that character. So I thought there's got to be something more with that character. And then when you would hear about them early on, you wonder throughout the series, when am I going to come across that guy again? When are we going to go back to the Two Rivers? I want to see Camelin again. But he keeps taking you further and further and further and spreading you out. But you'll get these little, trips here and there where you kind of, it's just all interwoven together, and it's intense. So yeah, we needed to learn more about the Children of the Light, and we got to figure out what's going on with them. You asked me a great question in the extended edition, which is like, how are they funded? And I didn't get a chance to look that up yet, but I'd love for people to maybe leave a comment or send us a pigeon about this. I think they're backed by the King of Amadisia, but I'm not exactly sure. And as we said, yeah, they're trying to spread their control into Almouth Plain and kind of control that region more, right? They're hoping, Aradamon and Tarabon are at civil war, and they're hoping to capitalize on it. And really, Pedron Nile, in this chaos that is created with these false dragons And when Tarvallen witches are moving around and they seem really busy and preoccupied, I think he sees a way in which he can capitalize on that. And you can further the mission of the Children of the Light.
Yeah. I'm looking here, just on their wiki, just trying to kind of see. I think you're right. Probably just somehow funded because of kind of their seat of power in Amadisia there. If I had to take a guess, just because it says, like they were kind of propped up by that king like 1,000 years ago or whatever. So
yeah. So anyways, just interesting stuff. If there are things we missed on the White Cloaks, or if there's more little connections and stuff, definitely hit up that discussion thread and let us know. They're a fascinating faction inside of this series, and I haven't given them as much thought as I think maybe I'd like to. So this time around, I'm really trying to like understand them a little bit more and look at them a little closer. So, yeah.
Okay.
Whew. Man.
All right as well. With that, man, I think we don't have any pigeons currently, do we?
No, and again, this just being the prologue, we're just doing like a quick little glance at this one chapter here, and then as I said, we're going to come back with the big episode later on. And if you do, though, send us a pigeon. I actually, for these prologues, don't really check to see if we have those, just because we're going to keep it short. But I'll check those to make sure we have some for the upcoming episode.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right, guys. Well, stay tuned, as I have a ton of YouTube content coming the way. There's tons of casting news we've been talking about as we get more and more of that info, and so it's a lot of fun over there. So be sure to check that out, and some of our new stuff here on Patreon, or not here on Patreon, but on our Patreon, I should say. So with that, we want to thank you for answering the call. In our next episode, we will be discussing The Dragon Reborn, chapters 1 through 10.
If you like our podcast, don't forget to subscribe, like us, write a review, leave a comment, or send us a message at thehornofvalir@gmail.com.
We will see you soon, and remember that the grave is no bar to our call.